Welcome to the Really Useful Podcast from MakeUseOf.com. My name is Christian Cawley, and I'm joined this week by James Fu. Hi, James.
Hello, Christian. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. You?
Yeah, pretty good. Having a good week so far. I mean, it's a Monday, but there you
go. Excellent. Do you know it is our 20th Really Useful Podcast this week?
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I only discovered myself an hour or two ago, but yeah, we've done 20 of these. So thanks to all of you who've been with us from the start, and those of you who even joined last week. We are here to give you the backgrounds and the information that you do need from the complicated techie stuff that's going on in the news. You can call us the Tech Podcast for Technophobes if you like. We do. And in this week's show, we will be looking at how you can make Google Assistant sound like John Legend. I have no idea who he is. Well, there you go. How you can play Snake in Google Maps. Tools to improve your memory recall. Details about Amazon order scams and how to avoid them. And a look at PC games that are still worth playing. We've also got news of a giveaway that's taking place on MakeUseOf.com, which you might be interested in. James, you're a bit younger than me. Who's John Legend?
He is a singer, songwriter, actor, pretty much everything. He's the only person, or one of the most recent people, to win. I can't remember the acronym, but it's like a Grammy, a BAFTA. There's some like holy grail of awards, and he's won it, where he's won every award going. And so I can't remember what the name is, but he's very successful.
Cool. Is that his real name?
As far as I know.
Right.
It's a very fortunate name to have, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Yeah. So Google Assistant have added John Legend's voice. Google has announced that Google Assistant is getting 6 new voices late last year, and including John Legend, and it is now available. And you can set it up to respond with John Legend's voice. I don't use Google Assistant. I use Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not 100% au fait with Google Assistant. I don't use it on my phone because I prefer to keep my exposure to digital assistants minimal as possible. You can enable Legend's voice in Google Assistant in 2 different ways. You can either say, "Hey Google, talk like a legend," or go to Settings, Assistant Voice, and select John Legend. It's only currently available in the US, though.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame. I was thinking of trying that out today. Have a bit of John Legend in my room.
What do you think of this?
I mean, it's kind of cool. It's a bit of a novelty, isn't it? It's about a decade ago, I think you had TomTom, which was the go-to GPS units at the time, had lots of voices, celebrity voices. You could get guided around by people like the Grand Tour's Jeremy Clarkson and a well-known British actor called Brian Blessed. Which if you haven't heard of him, I would Google him and listen to some of his YouTube stuff. His voice is pretty intense.
Have you seen his alarm clock app? I don't think you can get it anymore, but it's out a few years ago on iPhone.
Oh no, I didn't. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, it wakes up like, wakey.
That would have been incredible. I mean, this feature is kind of cool, I suppose. You can ask him specific questions, like, are you John Legend? What's your favorite type of music? It's something else to play around with on the assistant, make it kind of more fun.
I don't know. I think they should, if they're going to do this, they should go kind of total with it and get everyone involved. All the big names.
All the celebrities. Every celebrity. Yeah.
Have Donald Trump on your Google Assistant?
I'm sure there's people that would feel either way about that.
But there's quite a few people who would probably enjoy it, according to elections. You get anyone. You could. Who would be your fantasy Google Assistant voice be?
Oh, I don't know actually. It's got to be like a presenter or something. I think. Oh, while I'm thinking, what's yours?
All right, I've got 2. Okay. One is Alan Partridge.
Oh yeah, that's a good choice.
Who's a comedy character. My other is Tom Baker, Doctor Who.
Yeah, those are both very good choices, actually. I think I agree with Partridge. I'd quite like to have Partridge.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Because Steve Coogan's not busy enough at the moment. He could just sit down and record endless things for Google Assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he's making like 3 Alan Partridge series and like multiple films every year or anything like that.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Let's go back in time to Snake. Actually, it's funny this has come up because I've actually just scheduled an article about feature phones using Kai OS, which is quite popular in India and China. And these phones use Facebook. They have apps for Facebook and Twitter and other popular apps. But obviously they're not smartphones. They're basically like the old Nokia banana phones, those kind of phones. So it's quite strange that Snake should come along now and be available to play in Google Maps. This was to celebrate April Fool's Day. And when I heard about it, I thought it was an actual April Fool. And you can actually play it in your browser as well as on your phone. That's the cool thing about this.
Oh, I hadn't seen the browser one. I might have to try that out later. That's a good way to waste the rest of the day.
Totally. So this is the classic mobile game Snake, where you control a line of, essentially, in the old way of doing it, was control a line of pixels around your screen, picking up food, and it gets longer and longer and longer, and eventually you're going to kill yourself by guiding the snake into its own side or behind or whatever. And Google made this available in Google Maps. And it's really simple to play Snake on Google Maps. You click Start, choose a destination, and then you click the link to open Snake. It's a little bit. It's not quite as simple as that, but that's the general gist of it. You'll find this and everything else we talk about in the Really Useful podcast in this week's show notes, so you can get the link to that. But as I say, you can also play it in the browser, but using the same link. So on your desktop. So that's say if you're doing it on as James says, it's a good way to waste some time. Any fond memories of Snake?
Yes, actually. I used to love playing that. I remember actually when my dad got his first phone, I think it was a business phone or something, and it's probably late 90s, so I was maybe 10-ish. And I remember going out for meals and stuff and being like, oh, I can't wait to play Snake. And then he let me borrow his phone, got to play it. It was clunky on there, but it was good fun. And because those old Nokia phones had massive keypads, it was a lot easier. Yeah. I've tried some since on like smaller phones or on touchscreens. I always find it a little bit more challenging because smaller controls.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember playing Snake a lot. It was a good fun game. But then I reviewed the updated Nokia 3310 about 2 years ago now. And it had some really horrible version of Snake on it. It said Snake, but it was actually some like weird, horrible version that bore no resemblance to the original Snake. And it was very disappointing. It's one of the reasons I marked the phone down, actually. That was
while we're on the topic of feature phones, because obviously the majority of people have moved from feature phones to smartphones. What was the last feature phone you had?
Oh, it was a Nokia. I can't remember the name. It's like 83 something, I think. Okay. I don't remember exactly. 2008, something like that. Yeah.
I've kind of I had an accidental one, which was a Samsung Toco, which I got from T-Mobile under the auspices. I expected it to be a smartphone, but it turned out to be like a basic feature phone. It did have some apps, but it wasn't what I was expecting, so it went back quite promptly. But the last one I bought and enjoyed prior to moving to smartphones was a Sony Ericsson 68i.
Oh yeah,
which is a nice little compact Nokia style phone with a color screen and basic internet. And I had it for like 2 years. It was a really good little phone.
Yeah, they were much more indestructible then, I think. Like you could have them just for years and years, and you could drop it and throw it all over the place, and there weren't software updates to come in and obsolete it and things like that. So you had to get. Although I still remember being like, I don't know, 14, 15, and going through the yearly or 2 yearly upgrade cycle for these phones, which is funny because you look back on it and go, there's literally no reason to get a different phone.
Yeah.
But you were so convinced because all the mobile plans and things told you, you've got to get your upgrades, you've got to make sure you've got your new phone, and so you do it. But yeah, there was never a reason to do it. They were all pretty much the same.
Yeah. I with this phone was the phone I got afterwards was about 2 years later. I got a Windows Mobile 5 device. In fact, might even have been a Windows Mobile 2002. But whatever. This little Sony Ericsson, I took it on a holiday to to Europe when we went to Austria and we went into Germany for the beer festival in 2003. And I was sat on the coach, spending a lot of money on mobile internet trying to get the latest football scores on the way to Munich, and then took photos and stuff with it, and it was fine. They weren't HD. They were good photos, some of which we still use from time to time. So perfectly good. It does make you wonder about these mini servers that we now carry in our pockets.
Yeah. Like, how much do you really need everything that's on it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm actually thinking of downgrading mine at the moment, because I've got a very good Samsung tablet. So I do feel as though possibly my phone is actually doing stuff. I don't really need it to do. It's overpowered.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm having the same debate at the moment. Like, my Google Pixel, I think, has been obsoleted. So the battery life is really bad. It's the first generation Pixel. And I'm looking at what I might do for an upgrade. But the only thing that stops me getting either a feature phone or at least a cheaper model is the camera on the Pixel is just astonishing. And I can't let it go. I've looked at samples of so many other phones, but I can't leave the camera. I just enjoy the photos that it takes too much. So I'll probably end up having another Pixel device, I guess. But I'll try and hold it out a bit.
That's one of the reasons I held on to Windows Phone for so long, because the camera on my Nokia Lumia 950, I think it was so good. I mean, there's still photos. There's one on the internet, when you Google me, of my twins in the front garden playing with bubbles, and the sky's a beautiful shade of blue. The bubbles look amazing. The twins were like 2 years old, maybe 18 months, chasing these bubbles. It's just such a fine photograph, and there's nothing to fault it at all. And I did a great article looking at different people were making movies with their Lumias and the way that people make movies with iPhones. And the quality was there. There was no difference between them.
Yeah. Fantastic
cameras on those phones with the Carl Zeiss lenses. Let's move on though. While we're talking about memories and recall, we've at makeuse.com we've given you some tips on improving your memory and recall skills. I've got terrible memory for names and faces. I must be honest. But recently I've started. I say recently. Shows how good my memory is. In 2016, I think it was, I started keeping a regular journal.
Yeah.
Which has helped me remember stuff, not just the stuff that happened then, but like recall conversations and spin off from that. For instance, the conversation I had with my dad reminding me of Live Aid Day back in 1985. So I wrote down the things that I recalled from that day. But recall and study can be difficult. So at makeyourself.com, our colleague Saikat Basu has collated a list of 5 tips and tricks that require websites and apps. Now, the first one is Sans Forgetica, a font for study notes. So rather than using your pen, which is the best way to remember stuff, is to write things down. Always has been the way. If you are typing, there is a font that is designed for recall. What do you think of this? Because I think it looks like a nice font, but I'm not convinced it will work for me. I've tried remembering the phrase that we've got on the screen there.
Yeah.
And that hasn't worked.
Yeah, I keep going, we do not remember days, we do not remember moments, which is not actually what it says. It says, we do not remember days, we remember moments. I mean, it's an interesting idea. Different things work for different people, but I think I'm quite similar to you in that I wouldn't find that particularly helpful. I don't think it would help me remember things. So the idea behind it is it's meant to be difficult to read. And because it's difficult to read, you spend longer processing it and you're more likely to remember it, I think is the idea. But how useful everyone finds that, I don't know. But it's certainly going to help some people. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Absolutely. There's also the Memorize by Heart technique. This is an app that lets you basically record your content. It transcribes it into text, and then you just recite back to the app to get an idea of how accurate your memorization, if that's even a word, is. This might work. I don't know. I I mean, I haven't. I mean, I'm talking as if I remember stuff all the time, and I've got a great understanding of these things. But really, the last time I did any severe sort of study, I was 16. Because my A levels were nearly all like largely course based, and when I was all the university stuff I've done has been course based. Certainly the vast majority of it. So I used to record stuff on a handheld tape recorder and then play it back with a speaker under my pillow while I went to sleep, hoping I would learn things subliminally.
Yeah. And did it help?
I have no idea.
Oh. Well, if you wake up one morning and just start spouting something about you learned in your course, there you go then.
Well, if you're talking Spanish when you wake up, then it might work.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you were studying English, in which case you've got problem. So the Memorize by Heart app for iOS is an option. It costs $2.99. There's also a Chrome extension called Hibu, which is spaced repetition in your browser. This helps you highlight anything you find interesting on the web and add a note. And then the power of spaced repetition takes over. Reminders pop up according to a well-established and scientific formula, which is more. This is more of a habitual recall.
Yeah.
So to train you to like read the same thing over and over again. So yeah, that's free. That's for Chrome. I want to move on to Peak though. This is brain training. Now there was a time when brain training apps were everywhere.
Yeah, they were very, very popular, weren't they? There were even adverts on the TV and things for them.
Yeah, and was there an app that was voiced by Stephen Fry?
Oh, maybe. I remember there was a DS game that was all about brain training. It was one of the main ways they tried to sell the Nintendo DS. Yeah.
I think there might be one with John Cleese as well, if I remember rightly, because I think I know the person who did the script for that.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that was the John Cleese project he worked on. So yeah. So there's a tool for Android and iOS called Peak, which is a brain training app which has been developed by the University of Cambridge. And it also features a tool called Decoder, which helps you test your attention and concentration powers. That is a premium in-app purchase, but Peak itself is free. So this is another. Whether or not it's going to help you recall, it might just turn you into a genius and not help you recall.
But I'd rather forget things than be a genius, I think.
Totally. Yeah. Who would? Yeah. Who wouldn't? So we'll move on to number 5, the Revere app, which is for never forgetting the people that you meet. Unfortunately, it's for iOS, so it's absolutely useless to me because I use Android.
Yeah, me too. But this is actually something very interesting. So I did a weekend event back in, I think it was 2014, called Startup Weekend. It's sort of like a weekend where loads of people get together, and it was actually at Google's what's it called? Google Space, Google Office, whatever it was in London. And we came up with an idea for an app, which was basically this, which was you often forget people's names, or it's hard to keep track of what conversations you have with contacts or people's birthdays, like various information that you pick up about people. And it can be really difficult because then you go to meet someone or you've forgotten a date that you set or an event that they were going to, but it helps you build those relationships if you can remember those things.
Okay.
And this looks like the app that we were thinking of. For various reasons, we didn't end up getting it off the ground. But Revere seems to be exactly that. It says you can take notes on people you meet, keep a record of all the important details, use reminders to follow up or say hello on special days. And, that's exactly what I was thinking of when I did that startup weekend. So if I was iOS, I would definitely go for this.
Excellent. That is iPhone only.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And it comes with a small fee of, is it $4.99?
$4.99, yeah.
$4.99, yeah.
But Psycat does point out there is an alternative called Garden, which is similar-ish, and that is free, but it is also iOS only.
Okay. Right. If we're going to move on now to something that's quite important. Have you ever ordered anything from Amazon and the item has failed to arrive? Now, here's an interesting thing. This has never happened to me, but I did once order a book on Amazon, and the order was inexplicably cancelled. And to this day, I still don't know why.
Yeah.
Our colleague Dan Price has compiled some tips on what you should do if an Amazon order fails to arrive. And there are various things that can happen here. You can order an item and it takes a while to ship. You can order an item, it shows it's delivered, but it's never arrived. It is probably safer to order items that are fulfilled by Amazon, because you have a certain bit of protection with that. And Amazon do offer an A to Z guarantee.
So the fulfillment thing, so there's two ways of buying from Amazon. Amazon has massive warehouses, and they are filled with products. Some of them are sold by Amazon, but companies can also take up space in Amazon warehouses. And this means that they get to take advantage of Amazon's distribution network. So it's a lot quicker to get orders to customers. So you pay a little fee, you get to store it in Amazon, the thing goes quicker. But it also means that Amazon is responsible for getting the product to you. So it goes through Amazon's network, the trusted network that Amazon has built up around the world. And that's why I think Dan is suggesting that if you go for a fulfilled by Amazon one, it's usually safer and more likely to turn up. And you do also then have more options for sorting out if it doesn't, because you don't have to go to a third party and try and negotiate with them.
Sure. That should make absolute perfect sense. It does to me, and if it does to me, dear listener, then it should to you as well. I mean, have you run into problems ordering on Amazon, James?
Occasionally, but it's usually when deliveries have been placed in unusual positions that I would not have appreciated. So like we have a front door mat, and I had a big box come. It was sort of it was a relatively large box, and to try and hide it, they literally picked up the doormat and then put it underneath. So there was just a doormat sitting on top of a box in front of my front door. And I thought that's actually drawn more attention to it than if you just left it by the door, And there's things like that because it indicates that you're not in, And so I wasn't very appreciative of it.
What if you were in and you'd open the door? Because maybe you'd have been in the bath or the shower, but you opened the door and stood on the box.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very unusual situation. Weirdly, it hasn't happened to me very often that deliveries haven't turned up, because I can only remember one, and it was from 2011 when I was at university, and I'd ordered a textbook and it didn't turn up. And so I just got in touch, even back then, so we're looking 8 years ago, got in touch with Amazon, and they just went, okay, that's fine, we've cancelled the other order, there'll be another one on the way to you. And it turned up the next day. So, Amazon is pretty good at taking care of these things when deliveries don't turn up.
As with eBay, it's a good idea to check the reputation of the seller on Amazon. I think maybe because of Amazon's reputation as being Amazon and eBay's reputation of being eBay, people maybe don't appreciate that, although it's evident that there are third-party sellers on Amazon, that checking the reputation, because they're on Amazon, you're all automatically talking about a brand with a great reputation, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance that people are lulled into a false sense of security ordering third party on Amazon.
Yeah. And I suspect that might be by design as well. Amazon wants you to think of it as a trusted place so that you would, by default, go and order anything that's on there.
Yeah. So as ever, as with eBay, check the reputation of sellers and just and check the reviews, citations from other buyers, find out whether the product is the thing that you're after, and if the seller is up to scratch, basically, if they're likely to fulfill your order or not. As mentioned earlier on, this is an article on makeuseof.com, and it will appear in the show notes for this week's really useful podcast. If this is the first time listening, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and all the other places where you get podcasts, basically. You can even find us on Spotify and on YouTube if you don't mind looking at static photos of us.
If you just want to, maybe you've got a YouTube Red or Premium or whatever it's called now, the premium subscription that allows you to listen to audio in the background.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
you might have that.
Perfect. Let's move on to our final main item. And this is for those of you who've ever played PC games in the past and have felt an affinity with those titles that maybe you think, oh, I really fancy that game, but I don't think it's going to work on Windows 10. It was actually one of the really useful podcast hosts, Gavin Phillips, who's compiled a list of 10 old PC games that are still worth playing and can still be played today. There's some good titles in there. Theme Hospital, Baldur's Gate 2, OpenTTD, which is the open source port of Transport Tycoon Deluxe from, is that a 90s game, Deluxe?
I have absolutely no idea. To be honest, I've never really been a big gamer, so a lot of these are lost to me.
Okay, yeah. There's Fallout 2, there's Half-Life, which is, it's in its own world, is kind of legendary. There's Thief, which is a game which I've spent a lot of time playing back in the day. It's kind of a sneaking around game. There's StarCraft. There's Quake, which is one of the legendary first-person shooters, multiplayer games of all time. Grim Fandango, System Shock 2. These are all great games, and they're all available on Steam or goodoldgames.com, or they've been open sourced and they're actually free.
Which is quite impressive, really.
It is, isn't it? It gives games an extra lifespan way after their profitable phase has ended.
Because I was actually in this category of like looking back at old games that I love to play. So I've always loved Crash Bandicoot, the original PlayStation series.
Yeah.
And I was actually playing those, like the old games. Like I downloaded some of them from the PlayStation Store. I still had a PS3 that was compatible with discs, the old discs. So I'd play the old games. So when they announced the remasters a couple of years ago, I was like, I am totally on that. And I spent another like $40 or whatever it was. So there's a market for old games and the nostalgic feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I was slightly bewildered by the arrival of sort of HD remasters of old games initially, but having tried a few now, they're fantastic. There's I don't want to call it amateur because it's absolutely not amateur. There's a community-driven project that rebuilds Half-Life in the Half-Life 2 engine. For example, there's Amiga games that have been remastered and released on Android and iOS. There's so many, and you're not losing that kind of 16-bit atmosphere. It's just a bit polished for the HD displays. But it's I was watching the news last week, and they were displaying the BAFTAs, news from the BAFTAs Video Games Awards, and the video game industry is sort of like twice as big as the movie industry.
Yeah, it's enormous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. So it's great that these kind of, I suppose these are the, these older games. These are kind of the silent movie era.
Yeah, like the classic era.
Yeah. And yet you can still play them, and they're still great. Just like many of the silent movies and classic era of Hollywood are still great. So 10 games. For PC, this is just PC that's still worth playing, that you can get either free because they're open source, or you can get them still for a small fee on goodoldgames.com or Steam, which are both online digital distribution systems. A quick tip, if you do have these old games in the original form, they probably won't work on Windows 10 anyway. If you are handy, if you feel capable of setting up a virtual machine, you'll probably get them to install in a virtual machine. But if you're going to get them from GOG, goodoldgames.com, or Origin or Steam, then they will come compatible to run on Windows 10.
Yeah.
So that's that. And we're going to finish on a gaming topic. MakeUseOf is giving away an Xbox One X.
Ooh.
And to enter, all you need to do is sign up to the MakeUseOf.com newsletter. That simple. And they're drawing that on we're drawing that on the 15th of April. So get your subscription made quickly. I'll give you a link to that competition in the show notes.
The great thing to know about that is that if you are already a subscriber of our newsletter, you still need to go through the giveaway process. So make sure to head over to the link that Christian puts in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. So that's the Really Useful Podcast. Just to recap, we have discussed how to make Google Assistant sound like John Legend, how to play Snake in Google Maps, how you will improve your memory recall using these 5 tools, how to deal with Amazon order scams and what to look out for, and a look at 10 old PC games that are still worth playing. This has been Really Useful Podcast number 20. A little fanfare there. And that's all from James Frew and myself, Christian Cawley. We'll be back for another Really Useful Podcast next week. Until then, it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.